Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why burnout is not always caused by overworking. And we're going to talk about the different root causes that tend to show up very commonly, as well as the major external factors in our lives that can really play a role in burnout as a whole. And if you want to do a deeper dive, and if this is something that's really showing up for you in your life, in your relationships, in just like the way your life is as a whole, but obviously, especially in the workplace, we have an hour and a half presentation in the webinar library in PDS that you can check out for free for 7 days. And it's all about this stuff in general. It's about an hour and a half long. It gives you tips, tools, hacks to reprogram, all the stuff you need. And we also have a really great attachment styles in the workplace course you can check out for free for 7 days as well, that goes through the different attachment style patterns and things to be aware of and how to communicate and move into your strengths and away from your weaknesses, and all these sort of cool points that you can use. And there's like worksheets that you can download with that course, all that great stuff. So check that out. The link is in the description box below for free for 7 days. And this is what I really want you to know if you are struggling with burnout. First and foremost, the number of hours working does not necessarily determine how burnout a person becomes. I'm just going to share personally. I work from home. I work probably 50 hours and give or take, like sometimes a little more when we're doing like a lot of stuff. And I obviously save that time on travel time that would be like maybe 10 hours driving, half an hour to and from work sort of thing, that somebody else might spend working a normal 40-hour work week. And like, I was just unwell for a couple of days. I was sick for a couple of days last week. I think the whole world was sick recently. I think everybody kind of got some kind of cold or flu or COVID itself or all sorts of things. So hopefully everybody's healthy and okay. And I like missed work. Like when I was coming back, I was like, I can't wait to like record YouTube videos and go back into meetings and all these different things. 50 hours for me, I feel really energized at the end of 50 hours because I absolutely love what I'm doing. My needs are super met. I love the people I work with. My environment's great. I'm so grateful and so blessed. And that is a possibility for everybody, by the way, too. I won't go down too far into the rabbit hole. It takes time. There were definitely many times in life, especially growing up, where I worked jobs that I really didn't like, that I like absolutely disliked. But over time, I learned to design my life sort of increment by increment by increment to be able to get to this sort of point. And then you get to go into like kind of a maintenance phase. So it's possible for everybody, but you have to do the subconscious reprogramming along the way as well. And ask and have the conversations and be intentional and take the action steps and all those different things too. And it takes time, but it's so worth it. So anyways, the whole point there of me telling you that was because 50 hours for me versus 50 hours for me, let's say a decade or so ago when I was working a job I really didn't like, that 50 hours is so draining, right? Like I worked in a restaurant when I was in university, like 12 years ago or whatever it is. And like at that point, if I had to do that for 50 hours a week, it's a lot different of an experience. So I want you guys to imagine, for example, like something like that versus somebody, and I didn't even mind working at the restaurant that much. It was like not the worst thing in the world. But imagine it's something you truly, truly don't like, right? Where you just like, you despise it, you hate going to work. You're going to have a completely different experience. And here's what I want you to see in that experience. Point number one, in terms of root causes, the first thing is that your relationship to this thing is one of resistance. So usually like over time, because we already don't like the job, we then have repetitive thoughts and belief patterns triggered about how we don't like this. Like, oh, I'm trapped, I'm helpless and powerless. Some beliefs, right? We feel trapped at the time. In theory, we're not necessarily trapped forever, right? Like you can make a year-long plan to transition into something else or whatever it might be. But oftentimes we get into that space of thinking we're trapped and believing it and feeling the emotional output of that. And over time, that actually programs a whole bunch of emotional associations in relationship to work. So then even if we're having a great day, we go into work and we have this lingering background perception about how we're trapped there that exists at a subconscious level. And it's like the filter we see and interact with the world through. So number one, noticing that like resistance itself, it just creates, like it adds insult to injury, right? It just makes it that much heavier and more difficult and more challenging. Number two, our thought patterns and our belief patterns throughout the day create an emotional output. So if I'm at work and let's pretend I'm working in a restaurant and let's say I'm going, Oh my gosh, like especially on days when I remember when it would be like really slow, it's like, oh, like, and I worked in many restaurants on my way through school. And it's just like I would feel so trapped at the time and like, oh, I have nothing to do. I just have to stand here. I have to clean stuff. I have to do dishes. I have to, and be in so much resistance. And I would think negative thoughts like, I hate this. I'm so tired of this. I'm so, meanwhile, I was like blessed to be a student and be able to work. But I had all these like negative thought and belief patterns, right? So watch this track. You have negative thought and belief patterns. How do you feel when you're thinking those things? How do you feel when you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be here for 7 more hours. I don't like this. I can't stand this. I'm trapped here. There's nothing to do. I'm bored. Like, how do you feel when you're thinking and believing those things? You don't feel good, right? You start feeling negative. Now, emotions and neurochemistry go hand in hand. When I'm thinking really negative thoughts, I'm having more cortisol responses as an example, which is the stress neurochemical, right? And then what happens? That doesn't just like impact my immune system, but it also impacts me being in parasympathetic nervous system mode, like rest and digest and repair mode, or sympathetic nervous system mode, fight or flight mode. So what we're thinking about, what we're believing, what we're feeling, how we're neurochemically creating, and all these different things sort of going hand in hand, all have an impact on like how I'm feeling at the end of the day, right? So an 8 or 9 hour day doing something I love versus coming home from an 8 or 9 hour a day of something I really don't like, it's going to have a completely different output, right? Like you're going to feel much more exhausted, much more tired, much more drained at the end of the day. So that's like really important to recognize. Also, unmet needs have the same impact. When we have unmet needs in our lives, our subconscious mind signals to us and lets us know, hey, there's a pain of an unmet need. A really clear example of this is if you have an unmet need for love and connection. You'll feel the pain of loneliness. You'll feel this kind of longing or aching for people or for connection. Why? Well, because your subconscious mind is there to help you get your needs met. So it's going to signal to you and let you know when something's out of alignment or not working so you can do something about it. It's there as a mechanism to help us adapt and survive. Now, if you have a job for 40 plus hours of your work week, and it's sometimes, then you've got your 10 hours of travel time a week, or then you've got your getting ready in the morning and how you take work home with you and talk about it with other people. If you are in this place where you have all these unmet needs, you have the same thing. It's like that same cycle, right? It's like, then you feel bad. Then you've got the neurochemistry of feeling bad. And then that wreaks more havoc on your nervous system, your ability to regulate, how drained or not drained you feel at the end of the day. So it all can create so much burnout from that perspective. Okay. So when we don't like things, when we don't feel passionate about things, when our needs are not met, we have this pain cycle, and we tend to get more into resistance and have negative thoughts and belief patterns that then trigger this whole cycle, and can actually physically affect us and exhaust us. And then over time, that can create chronic nervous system dysregulation, which puts you, if you watch the other video on burnout from the day before, or a couple of days ago, you'll see that we talked about how there's 5 stages of burnout and how we can actually reach a perspective of a place that we get to where it's like habitual burnout, chronic burnout. And that's actually the result of you staying in that state for so long that your nervous system just gets used to being in sympathetic nervous system mode. And that drains you over time. It makes you feel dysregulated. Usually you'll see the equilibration of that is like you're really on during the day, maybe stressed, maybe thinking a lot, really busy. And then you feel this crash when you come home, and it's like you can just like get through the night. Like it's so hard to even make dinner kind of feeling. And that's you being in a really not good state long term. And that's what we really want to be able to get out of. Now, the last thing I want to add in here is our environmental interactions. And forgive me if this video is a little bit long. I'm going to try to like hustle through the end here, but external factors. So our external factors and environment can also create negative thought patterns, unmet needs, frustrations, triggering that can also put us in a negative emotional place and neurochemical space, which then affects our nervous system regulation. So things like high demands, confusing instructions, bad leadership, bad collaboration, conflict in the workplace, a lack of trust or ability to communicate, pressure, lack of freedom, lack of resources, a lot of negative feedback or criticism, all these things in our external environment will touch on those same things. So we can have that external environment that can cause burnout as well, along with those internal things. So I hope this all makes sense. I just want us to understand, like, at a root level, what's happening. Of course, if we're in a really demanding job with like a lot of hours, even if we love it, if it's 80 hours a week, that's going to burn you out. But if you're, just a little above average in terms of your workload, but you love what you're doing, I want you to see how those internal factors are missing, which changes the relationship to the experience and doesn't necessarily have to create anything like burnout whatsoever. It can actually be something that energizes you instead. So I hope this makes sense. If you want to do a deeper dive and like understand all these different dynamics, please check out our webinar. We took all these different dynamics, but then we talk about in that webinar, which is a very long webinar, hour and a half, all the different tools to reprogram them, how you can get out of a situation, how you can make an exit strategy on your way out of work, all these different things. So check that out. You can check it out for free for 7 days. We also have that attachment styles in the workplace course that you can check out. I hope this all makes a lot of sense. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't yet. And I will see you in the next video.